Good morning, everybody. My name's Dayna. I'm a recovered compulsive eater. I recovered, I'm looking at my big book, 2011. So this is a step speaker format. If you're new to it, this is actually modeled after our mentors. This meeting is we have some wonderful mentors out of the Primary Purpose Group in Dallas. They taught us the principles in the big book. We applied it and experienced, well, look what's happened. It's tremendous. People have experienced miracles in their life. And this meeting is going to go for 4 days, and it's basically like a lecture style, and we're going through the big book. So if you don't have a big book, you can actually download it and follow along. But it's outlined here in the book, and what I like about this book, so hey, don't take my word for anything. Listen to, check it out in the book. And the thing why that's reassuring is that back in the day, as the original 12-steppers were figuring this out, believe it or not, they experienced, and they're like, okay, well, how do we teach this to others? And at the time, they had the Oxford group, which was 6 steps, and it was Bill Wilson, one of the co-founders, that spearheaded it into 12. He was thinking about the 12 apostles. He was influenced by some authors at the time. He wasn't religious, but he did have a priest that I forget his name. They wrote about him, but anyway, he was a mentor of him, and so the 12 apostles was an influence. The 12 chakras. So believe it or not, the original pioneers had some, spiritual ideas, or they were open to concepts, and their intention was to include everybody. And the reason for that, because they knew that they had to survive alcoholism. And that is the spirit that you will find of those of us that use the big book for compulsive eating, is a sentiment of that we know that we're going to die from this. And not everybody that has eating issues are like, that's just a weight thing, But for those of us that have tried to control our weight and our eating, and found that we spent a lot of time not being able to do it, we have a humble, or at least myself, a very humble respect that I wasn't going to make it. And so a very sincere and devotion. And so you can imagine that when I've been given a gift, and it's my job to pass this on. That's how I keep it. But you can imagine that if someone were to, take my big book away, I'd probably get pretty fierce. And can you imagine why? It's my last piece of, it's my last 16 ounce of water. So I'm probably going to fight you for it. And I don't mean that literally. I'm just trying to say, just to understand why we revere our big book. So I hope you can respect that. So when you look at the title, now I am not an alcoholic, and we never claim to be. I'm a compulsive eater, and I will explain to you what that means and the solution that applied. But the title page says Alcoholics Anonymous, and it says the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. Now, this is the first promise in this book. This is not a story of forced solutions. This is not a story of how I went to meetings and read daily devotionals. Now, I also want to point out that the book is very clear that we have no monopoly on God, and actually I'll find that place for you. Let's see, it should be there. I'm thinking it's a forward. It might be the forward to the second edition. Yeah, here we go. So if you go to the forward to the second edition on page XXI, it says, upon therapy for the alcoholic himself, we surely have no monopoly. Yet is our great hope that all those who have as yet found no answer may begin to find one in the pages of this book and will presently join us on the high road to new freedom. When we say we have no monopoly, this is not an insult to anyone who recovered in a different way. It just is not the way that worked for me. And so this book helps to get through the myths. There's a lot of myths. And myths outside of what the book teaches. And that doesn't mean that is a solution to a different problem. This is what we found to be a solution to our problem. So when I say that this is the only thing that's worked for me, I'm talking about for me. But please note, I'm not saying there's only one way. So let's not weaponize that. So, but they do say in this book that if you have a hopeless state of mind and body, they do say that this is the only thing they found to work for them. And there's some urgency there because a lot of people died trying a lot of different things. So we found something that worked, and we're going to present it to you. So it says on page 19 that we have concluded to publish an anonymous volume setting forth the problem as we see it. We shall bring to task our combined experience and knowledge. This should suggest a useful program for anyone concerned with an eating problem. Now, I altered the words because they do say that they're going to tell us here in the book as well that they believe that this has benefits for all. Let's see, I am going blank what that is in the book, that ultimately they believe that this, I think it's in, the forward to the, anyway, I did mark down things, and then I'm just kind of thinking of things as we go along. But ultimately, the purpose of the pioneers and why we study this is not what Dayna does. So it's not like, well, Dayna, eats gluten-free. It's not what I do. Or Dayna, prays this certain way. Dayna takes a walk every day. We get caught up in those little things. And the truth of it's not what I do. It's what they did. It's what they did. And because when we do what they did, we're going to get what they got, which is neutrality. That's what we're promised. So what you'll see in the forward to the first edition, it says that, and this is page XIII, forward to the first edition, that this is the forward as it appeared in the first printing of the first edition in 1939. And it says that we of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And to show other compulsive eaters precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. We think this account of our experiences will help everyone to better understand the compulsive eater. Many do not comprehend that the compulsive eater is a very sick person, and besides, we're sure our way of living has its advantages for all. So they're telling us what the problem is, and the problem comes down to a hopeless state of mind and body. And usually I write this on a board when I'm doing this face-to-face. So what does it mean to have a hopeless state of mind and body? And if you want to, you can write that down. In fact, let's do it together. Write body first, and then write the mind. And when they say hopeless, you can write hopeless. What does that mean? Well, first of all, we can say hopeless because we offer a solution. It's not real hopeful to go, you're screwed. But the solution that we offer is not the solution of holding your breath. Like, I'm on again, I'm off again, I'm on again, I'm off again. I did that for years. Oh, I fell off my plan, I'm on my plan. I fell off my plan, I'm on my plan. Oh, I missed a tool. I called my sponsor 5 minutes late. Oh, I didn't weigh and measure. I did that for years. On again, off again. We're talking about another way. We're talking about a way of living that changes this mind and body issue. So I do want to hold on to that, mind and body. And we're going to jump ahead here. Let's see. Well, actually, I think I'm going to do, let's bounce around this morning in Bill's story, because they go through the steps real well. So in Bill's story, when we study it, he does a great job in helping us understand step one. And ultimately, because in our step speaker meeting here, we're going to go through the first 3 steps. And today and then tomorrow we'll go through the preceding steps, and then until we end up in 10, 11, and 12 on Thursday. But I'm going to point out points of Bill's story. He starts out to tell us what his life was like. Here was love, applause, sublime. Here was love and applause, war, moments sublime with intervals hilarious. I was part of life at last. And in the midst of my excitement, I discovered liquor. I forgot the strong warnings and the prejudice of my people concerning drink. And in the time we sailed over there, I was lonely, and again I turned to alcohol. So there's something very common about our spirit. So mind and body is the problem. The spirit is going to be the solution. And he's going to tell us about the spirit, but and we'll learn more about it in the doctor's opinion. But if you want to follow me, write down restless, irritable, and discontented. So what we found with people that have this mind and body issue, and I will tell you ultimately, I'm going to give you the clue. The body, when we say powerless, obviously that means powerless means I don't have it in my power. And what's wild is that we are taught that we do. And it's confusing, isn't it? But that's part of step one. It's confusing. But when we say we're powerless of the body, which, by the way, is the first diagnosis of step one, and I'm going to jump into step one. Why not? We admitted we were powerless over compulsive eating, and our lives have become unmanageable. It's not eating that's my problem. And I'll be controversial. It's not even food. It's the manner of which I'm eating. And if you don't believe me, has anyone ever compulsively eaten healthy food or ice or gum? Tell me you haven't done it. If you're like me, you probably have. So what am I going to do if I'm not even compulsively chewing food? It's obviously compulsive eating is part of it. So that first part of step one, we admitted we were powerless, is a diagnosis of the body. And do you lose control? And the body is where we're powerless over control. And then we have in the mind that we're powerless over choice. That's that second part. And our lives have become unmanageable. It means that I've lost power to choose. Now, these problems, okay, so that's my problem. There's actually, we're going to bounce one more back, and that is the spirit. So I have been living in a way that is conformed to restlessness and irritability and discontentment. We can blame it on our parents. We can blame it on society. But here we are as adults, and this is where our spirit is. And, I will read very briefly, since we're talking about the doctor's opinion. So we believe and so suggested a few years ago. I am now back on page XXVIII, so thanks for following with me. So we believe and so suggested a few years ago that the action of alcohol and these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy, and the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. I'm reading as is because the body of an alcoholic is very different than ours, but there's key points here. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all, and once having formed the habit and found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence or reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them, become astonishingly difficult to solve. So this goes back to that body and not being able to control. So what we have is an abnormal response. And the body is actually the last place where all this lands. It's like the base of the pyramid, and then we have the mind above that, and then we have the spirit above that. And then above that, we have what they refer to as God. And what we're targeting, we're going to go straight to the top of the pyramid, so that pours down into the body. Does that make sense? But what we try to do a lot of times is start at the base of the pyramid, and we try to, I'm going to solve the body part, and that's, hope that that's going to solve the mind part, and hopefully get to God. And you can see that there's all this blockage up there. But if we start at the top and fix that up, then it's going to trickle down, and our mind gets free. First our spirit does. And I get it. Usually we're sitting there, well, what's the tangible thing? And that's where it's good to get with a sponsor to help you with that. And first we work on the spirit, and then it's gonna flow into the mind, and then it's gonna flow into the body. We spend a lifetime on the base of that pyramid trying to solve that, and it's insanity. Can you imagine? And it's tiring, isn't it? So what we need to know here about this phenomenon of craving is that we have an abnormal response in our body. So when I am eating compulsively, I'm not eating to nourish my body, and it is abnormal. So there's not a natural response. And probably the easiest way to understand it is when you drink water. So when you're thirsty, I have not heard a lot of that. Actually, I have heard of people compulsively drinking water. I have. Hey, the world, it's amazing what compulsive eaters can do as an attempt to control their eating. For me, water's not a thing. I was outside working. I got thirsty, drank some water. I went, and I was done. I went, cool. I'm now satiated. That is a natural response to eating as well. There's a natural response. They're biochemical reactions and all these communications that happen in our body that say, hey, it's time to eat. And then, hey, we're good. We're satiated. I don't know about you. By the time I came to this solution out of the book, that communication was not happening. There was no satiation. There was no natural hunger. It was, I'm always feeling hungry. I was eating in a different manner. And it hurt. Sometimes it hurt. It was brutal. And then what happened was when natural impulses would come up, it terrified me because I didn't know what was going to happen. It was like a sneeze. I might, yeah, if you've ever done it, I know all of us have done it at least once. It makes me think of this poor guy I was on a date with, and he sneezed in my face, and he had just taken a drink of beer, and he sprayed it all over my face. I'm trying not to digress. that we've all had that moment where we sneezed and like, oh hell broke out. Where you're like, oh my gosh, just out of control. That, and we're talking about powerless around eating. It's like I had as much control over that. Now, for the most part, I go, oh, it's coming. Excuse me, cover my napkin. But yeah, I'm sure there's been at least one experience where it just took over. And there's other bodily functions, and we just won't go there. Where you're like, I can control this like I can control that bird flying around right now. So, phenomenon of craving means that when I begin to eat, and my point is I don't have control over it. So, and that is abnormal. And so what happens is that a normal response, I start to eat compulsively, and I lose control. And then what's going to result is what they label as a binge. I'm gonna keep eating until I hate myself and I'm hurting. Either I run out, I just wouldn't stop. When that time would happen, I just kept going. And so they tell us that frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. The message which can interest and hold these compulsive eating people must have depth and weight. In nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives. So that we're going back to that spirit. Remember the pyramid? So first we're tapping into this power, which they refer to as God. Now, I know there's a lot of people going, okay, you're going to tell me God's going to solve my eating. I've done this already. And I'm that's not actually where I'm going with this. Because we might believe, but we don't have access. So we're living in the bottom of the pyramid. And so I hope that visual, that there's the bottom of the pyramid, and then you go to the next level, and it's a little shorter. And the next level is a little shorter. And the top point is something greater than us. And so, so we might have a belief in, or we may not have any belief in, and that's okay. You don't even have to. I'm getting ahead of myself. But we're going to have to work on the spirit component. And so in that spirit, going back to, which is actually under, the spirit is actually under the higher power, the tipping point. And we're not quite at the tip just yet, but we got to address this spirit component. And that is part of recreating our lives. And so I'm living in a way that contributes to this restlessness and irritability and discontentment. So what are we going to do? We're going to change the way we live. How do I do that? And again, we might believe in something greater. We just don't have access to it. So that's the body component. And by the way, I just read this paragraph in the Doctor's Opinion XXVIII. That is one little paragraph on the body. And then the rest of this book is about the mind. Isn't that crazy? So they go, yeah, your body. I mean, that's the bottom of the pyramid. And there's like there's tons of other layers to us. The body is just that bottom base. And we focus on that a lot, don't we? So they tell us that men and women compulsively eat. That's the bottom of XXVIII. Men and women compulsively eat essentially because they like the effect produced by compulsive eating. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it's injurious, they cannot after a time differentiate the truth from the false. To them, their compulsive eating life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, and discontented. See? unless they can, again, experience a sense of ease and comfort, which comes by taking a few compulsive bites which they see others taking with impunity. And after they succumb to the desire again, as so many do, the phenomenon of craving develops. They pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging reversal with a firm resolution. Not to compulsively eat again. And this is repeated over and over. Unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there's very little hope of its recovery. So we're going to talk about the mind component, and I will get back to Bill. I am going to try to follow a line here. I will get back to Bill. Okay, so the mind is where the obsession is. And what is an obsession? An obsession is I can't stop thinking about it, and I can't stop worrying about it. I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop worrying about it. I go around and around and around. Should I? Did I? Should I? Did I? Should I? Did I? Should I? Did I? That's an obsession. And an obsession is that once it's in my mind, and this is, they just described the spree. So let's go through the spree. The spree starts at remorse and guilt. And so remorse and guilt is, I just bought a week, an entire weeks full of groceries, and I go home and I eat them all in one sitting. Yeah, I'm capable of that. Or, so-and-so bought some nice little, breakfast things, and that's all I eat all day. All day. So I'm hating myself because I did what I said I'm not going to do. And then I come up with a firm resolution. What's my firm resolution? On Monday, the blessed Monday, on Monday. So I bet there's a bunch of people. Today's the day, right? On Monday, I'm going to go back to the gym. On Monday, I'm going to start my paleo diet. On Monday, I'm going to go keto. On Monday, I'm going vegan. On Monday, I'm going. And by the way, these are not bad things. It's just that it's not the solution to our problem because it's that base there. So at the bottom of this pyramid, I am focusing there, and I'm trying to shove everything above. I'm trying to fix it. And there's a stack of things on top of the body that I'm not even able to touch with a vegan diet. Not saying those things are bad things. It's just a solution to a different problem. So on Monday, I'm going to go back to the gym. On Monday, I'm going to get a day sponsor, a night sponsor. I'm going to get a food sponsor. I'm going to get an emotion sponsor. I'm going to get a relationship sponsor. I'm going to get a goal sponsor. I'm going to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. So what happens is those are firm resolutions. So my firm resolution is, okay, I'm going to go keto. So I follow it maybe for a day, maybe for 2 days. Actually, I'm going to go on my meal plan. That's what I'm going to do. Now, when people recover, when we start at the top of the pyramid and we go down, whoops, sorry about that. When we start at the top of the pyramid and go down, we'll talk about meal plans later, not really meal plans, but your medical doctor might have something for you. We're not negating that. So don't run off and go, she said vegan's bad. No, that's not what I said. You can't do a meal plan. No, it's just when you start at the base of the pyramid, that's a solution to a different problem. It's probably going to be great for your medical issues, but are you able to stick to it? Okay, then we got to look at the rest of the pyramid. So the obsession is once it enters my mind, it takes over. And what happens when you have an obsession is you always compulsively eat. And when you always compulsively eat, what is that? That's just damn insanity. Because you keep doing the same thing over and over. Does anyone else have family members? At one point, my family, it's so wild. Now my family is like, they were on the merry-go-round with me. They'd be like, okay, We bought you a birthday cake. Oh, no, we're not supposed to. Oh, sorry, we weren't. Oh, we do? We don't. We do? I mean, it was so wild. They'd be like, I can't believe you bought me that. And then I'd be like, why'd you not buy me a cake? And it'd be like, which is the light on? Is the light off? I love cake. I hate cake. I love cake. I hate cake. And that was every day. No, we can't go there because I'm doing this. Oh, let's go do this, because I would be going off the rails. And they'd be like, whoa, I thought yesterday you were on. Okay. So I make a firm resolution, and what happens is because my spirit is restless, irritable, discontent, if I don't have a solution that is at least as equal to or more powerful than the desire to compulsively eat, if I don't have a solution that is at least as effective as compulsive eating, if not better, then what's going to happen is I'm going to, in my firm resolution, I'm going to start getting what I call itchy. I'm going to start twitching. I'm going to start going, so I follow my meal plan, maybe for a day. Personally, I followed one for 2 years very strictly. And it was all I could do. I couldn't do anything else in life. It was like holding my breath. It was like literally holding the Titanic with my arm in the ocean. It was so hard to hold on to. And why? You can imagine there was all this other stuff that needed to be addressed. And I was going to do that for a lifetime. Now, people knew that I wasn't right. They knew I was angry. They knew I was irritable. They knew I was restless. They knew I was discontent. But nobody could tell me why. So, or they would give me, on the previous page, brought the emotional appeal. They would just go, hey, just do this. Just do that. Just do that. Okay. So, irritability, restlessness is uneasiness. Irritability is easily agitated, and discontented is never satisfied. So what happens is I make a firm resolution, and then my mind is eventually going to lie to me. And what my mind's going to say to me is this time it's going to be different. Hey, it's organic. You bought it from the farmer's market. It's very natural and good for you. You can have just a little. So I make a firm. My mind lies to me, and that's because I have a mental blind spot. And that mental blind spot is I think about what the eating is going to do for me. I don't think about what it's going to do to me. Or I do know what it's going to do to me, but I don't have the ability I don't have any power to stop. So, on the other hand, and as strange as it may seem to those who do not understand, once a psychic change has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, who had so many problems he despaired of ever solving them, suddenly finds himself easily able to control the desire for compulsive eating, the only effort necessary being to require a few simple rules. And those rules are what's outlined in this book. Okay, so let's go back to Bill. So, though my drinking was not continuous, it disturbed my wife. Drinking was taking, that's page 2, drinking was taking an important and exhilarating part of my life. I made a host of fair weather friends. I began to get jittery in the morning. Then this is like the four pages where he's up, he's down, he's up, he's down. Has anyone been on that cycle? Up, I'm on, I'm off, I'm on, I'm off. Then, and this is where we move into what they call chronic. Chronic is when I can't even go on again. Okay, so when you go on and you're off, you're on and you're off. There will come a time for the chronic, and that's what we're doing here. We're chronic compulsive eaters here. Chronic. Yes, there's a difference. The difference is I can't even get on again. And that's a scary place to be. I can't even resolve anymore. And guess who else did that? Bill. Liquor ceased to be a luxury. It became a necessity. Now I'm not doing it because I've been, quote, good. I'm doing it because I can't do anything else. bathtub gin, 2 bottles a day, and often 3 became routine. Nevertheless, I still thought I could control my situation. I woke up and said, stop. I saw I could not take so much as 1 drink. Shortly afterwards, I came home drunk. I began to wonder for such an appalling lack of perspective. Remember we said insanity? Seemed near being just that. I told myself I would manage better. I'm on page 6. Next time. But I might as well get good and drunk then, and I did. Did anyone ever go, screw it? Oh, I had a little, screw it. I'm just going to eat them all day. The courage to do battle is not there. Should I kill myself? That's where we get. Should I kill myself? No, not yet. Then a mental fog settled down. Jen would fix that. 2 bottles down in oblivion. The mind and body are marvelous mechanisms. For mine endured this agony for 2 more years. Can't tell you what my body has endured. There have been awful experiences with my GI. Awful. I won't describe them, but think of an awful moment where you're, yeah. Then came the night where the physical and mental, here's this mind and body, mind and body, mind and body. Best of all, I met a kind doctor who explained, though certainly selfish and foolish, I've been seriously ill, bodily and mentally, as Dr. Silkworth. So he learned some knowledge. So learning knowledge is not the end. It's just knowledge. Surely this was the answer, self-knowledge. No, he's got another page. So we're going to end our step 1, and then we're going to get into, spend a lot of time on it. No words can tell the bitter of the loneliness and the despair I found in the bitter morass of self-pity. Quicksand stretched all around me in all directions. I had met my match. I was overwhelmed. Alcohol was my master. I can't tell you that there are no truer words than that right there. I met my master. But here's the thing, folks. Trembling, I stepped from the hospital, a broken man. Fear sobered me for a bit. Then came the insidious insanity of that first drink on Armand's Day, 1934, and I was off again. He walked out of the rehab and went straight to a bar. Said he was never going to do it again. They did it. Everyone became resigned to the certainty that I would have to be shut up somewhere or would stumble along to a miserable end. How dark it is before the dawn. Here is the promise. In reality, that was going to be the beginning of my last debauch. I was soon to be catapulted in what I'd like to call the 4th dimension of existence. I was to know happiness, peace, usefulness, and a way of life that is incredibly more wonderful as time passes. God, that makes me smile. So his buddy comes along. He did no ranting. In a matter-of-fact way, he told of how 2 men appeared in court persuading the judge to suspend his commitment. They had told of a simple religious program and a practical program of action. That was 2 months, and the result was self-evident. It worked. Like myself, this is Ebby. His friend, we all have that friend is, just as bad as us or worse. And so we hang out with them because we're like, well, I'm not as bad as them. I had a best friend. She's still a good friend. And she was bad, 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 much worse than me. And so I'm going to hang out with her. And she found religion and solved her issue. But Dayna got progressively worse. Isn't that interesting? So like myself, he admitted complete defeat. Then he had, in effect, been raised from the dead, suddenly taken from the scraps of a heap, a better life than the best he'd ever known. Had this power originated in him? Obviously it had not. There had been no more power in him than there was in me in that moment, and this was none at all. That floored me. I began to look as though religious people were right after all. Here was something at work in the human heart which had done the impossible. God, it makes my heart. My ideas about miracles were drastically revised right then. Never mind the musty past. Here sat a miracle directly across the table, the kitchen table. He shouted great tidings. And the sponsors on the line, that's you. That's what you get to do for people. That's what you get to do. Isn't that awesome? I saw that my friend was much more than inwardly reorganized. He was on a different footing. His roots grasped a different soil. And it was only a matter of being willing to believe in a power greater than myself. Nothing more was required of me to make a beginning. I saw that my growth could start from that point, upon a foundation of complete willingness. I might build what I saw in my friend. Would I have it? Of course I would. Thus, I was convinced that God is concerned with us humans when we want him enough. At long last, I saw, I felt, I believed. So, this takes us to step 2, which is simply about hope and a willingness to believe. So in step 1, we talked about being powerless over being able to control, and then being powerless over the ability to choose. I don't choose compulsively eating. It chooses me. So if I know that I am that person, and you can ask yourself, there's a diagnosis, if when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely. This is page 44. Or if in compulsive eating you have little control of the amount you take, you're probably a compulsive eater. If that may be the case, you may be suffering from an illness which only, there's the word only, virtual dude, only a spiritual experience will conquer. So lack of power was our dilemma. We had to find a power by which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves, obviously, but where and how are we going to find this power? Well, that's exactly what this book is about. Its main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. Lack of power was our dilemma. So, again, we might believe, but we don't have access to. So all we need is to have some hope and a willingness to believe. And then that gets us to there, on page 13, there I humbly offered myself to God as I then understood him, to do with me as he would. I placed myself unreservedly under his care and direction. I admitted for the first time that of myself I was nothing, that without him I was lost. That's step 1. The depletion of the ego is really where 1 happens. 2, without him I was lost. I ruthlessly faced my sins and became willing to have my newfound friend and take them away, root and branch, and I have not had a drink since. So that takes us to step 3, which is a decision. So we can find this on page 60, which tells us that our description of the compulsive eater in the chapter 3 agnostic and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we are compulsive eaters and we cannot manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our compulsive eating, and C, that God could and would if he were sought. A and B are step 1. C is 2. So when you have 1 and you have 2, ba-bam, you're at 3. Being convinced, that's what that means. We're at step 3, which is that we decided to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Just what do we mean by that? And just what do we do? Well, we're going to learn about that on page 64 through 103. So, step 1, we admitted we were powerless of compulsive eating and our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, came to believe in the power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Hope. 1 was toast. 2 is hope. 3, making a decision. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. So what that means is turning over our thoughts and our, where's the other part of this? I was writing on the back of this. Okay. We're turning over our thoughts and our actions. That's what turning our will and our lives over. There's a lot of myths around that, but like we can actually like hand our will over and then we grab it back. No, we don't have the power to do that. If we did, we wouldn't need this program. It means I'm going to turn over my thoughts because my thoughts are jacking with me, and my actions are all messed up. So I'm going to ask someone who seems pretty pretty clear about what they're doing. I'm going to ask them to help me. That's what I did. And then we're making a decision to go through the rest of the program. We'll talk about that tomorrow. And we talked about step 1 and 2 and 3. And I think it's important. There's a great part that I noticed And it was a conversation I've had very recently. And the reason we need to carry this message and sponsor others, teach others, give back to others what we've been given is that's how we learn. Oftentimes the natural response is, I did it initially. I was so impressed by my sponsor and her knowledge that, in meetings I would sit there and I'd go, why don't you share? Or people, I would, I'd reach out to people and I go, you should talk to my sponsor. And she went, no. You do it. You are supposed to do that. And I remember going, I can't do that. And I remember she'd flip through the book and I'm like, how do you know these things? Well, that's now I can flip around in the book, and I remember thinking that was absolutely daunting. But you know what? If you do it, you're going to have it too. This is open to everybody. So, but there's a part. So basically, in step one, and by the way, folks, I'm not holding back. So I'm going to be talking to you very, very. I'm just not holding back. There's circumstances roaming around in our existence here as a group, and I'm not holding back anymore. So, but anyway, when we talk about compulsive eating, how I got recovered was explained to me that my problem was not food, that my problem was not my weight, my problem was not my marriage status. My problem was not the blood work that was frightening as a consequence of my eating. That my problem came down to the manner in which I was eating, which was compulsive. And it was laid out that my body was abnormal, and it makes sense. It makes sense to me that my body was abnormal, but even before that was my mind. That my mind was even more, there was a blank spot in my brain. And when you see me face to face, I'm just, I draw a pie. It looks like a pie. There's a piece of the pie missing. And there's that space in my brain that when it comes to that first compulsive bite, it skips. There's not a full circle. I cannot remember the consequences. And even if I remember the consequences, it's brief. And there's not any power in me to stop me from doing that. So, but I'm going back to a conversation that I had. So the body is where this abnormal phenomenon is. And I know that I knew I was abnormal from the get-go, even as a young person. My mother she was a teacher, and for summer break, the kitchen gave her all these desserts. And I was on a road trip with, I was like 8, and my cousin was like 6, something like that. And I remember just being so excited. Like, it wasn't even about going to the destination. It was like, look, we have all these desserts. And it was like, now this trip is good. And I just remember indulging and not being able to stop. And I remember my cousin was like, yeah. I'm like, do you want another? And he was like, no, it was delicious. It was good. I'm not hungry. And I remember looking at him like, it's not about being hungry, you idiot. This is about vacation. So I just remember like that I didn't want to stop. And I remember kind of like, I'm just going to hide this. I'm just going to be real discreet. And because it was so exciting. That's what eating did for me. Yeah. It brought to life my vacation with my family. So wild, isn't it? So you can imagine what happens in this progression is that the progression is that it stops working. At that time it worked, but then it stops working. And then what happens is when it stops working, guess what? This girl can't stop it. So going back to the body, that's an abnormal. Obviously, that's abnormal. My cousin was normal. And at that moment, I kind of saw that. And I just kind of brushed it off and was like, well, I'm just going to hide it. Yeah, and yes, there was a part that was like, well, more for me. Like Bill talks about in his story. So the body, abnormal. There's a phenomenon of craving. When I begin to eat compulsively, it's not eating. It's not even the damn food. It's the manner at which it's happening. And that wouldn't happen if I didn't already have an obsession going. And then let's go back even further. The obsession is being driven by my thoughts. And what are my thoughts being driven by? My spirit that's restless and irritable and discontented. And why is my spirit restless? I'm living in a way that fuels restlessness, irritability, and discontentment. I'm living in that way. So this phenomenon of craving happens. What's phenomenon? It's like a little churning of a ball that gets bigger and bigger and bigger down that mountain. It becomes an avalanche. And then that ends up in a disaster of I'm crashing out. So it's like this little snowflake at the top of the mountain, and it just rolls, and it gets bigger and bigger, and then it's an avalanche. And what happens is it crashes at the bottom there, and that's going to be a binge. I'm going to be physically unhappy. I'm going to snap out of it and go, holy cow, what did I just do? And then that second part is the mind, and that's where the big book goes. There's one paragraph that focuses on the body, and the rest of the pages are focused on the mind component. And the mind is where the obsession lies. And the obsession means that body means I'm powerless over control. The mind means I'm powerless over the ability to choose. And it is so important, at least in my existence here, because I have no doubt I would have died from this thing. I have no doubt. It would have been self-harm. It would have been, just being so distracted, running into somebody. I mean, car accident. Because it was not uncommon to scoop a ice cream out with my hand. I mean, that's barbaric. Whew. I don't live like that anymore. But I'm glad social media did not happen, because I guarantee somebody would have driven by like, look at this gal, man, she looks like a beast. And I sure did feel like that. So the obsession means that I'm powerless over the ability to choose, and I'm always going to compulsively eat, even when I say I never, ever, ever, ever. And that's insanity. And it sounds pretty intense, doesn't it? That's how I used to eat. And, not everybody does that. And then send me the people that are. Send them my direction, because they exist. So, but, yeah, not everybody does that. Not everybody even who loses control with their eating does what I do. And that is what they reference in the book as a chronic compulsive eater. Chronic means that I can't even resolve anymore. I've blown past that. And, a lot of people have to go try out the tools to determine that. There's a good part here when I was reading it in the book here, in the preamble. And in order to form a habit upon and referring all that we do to that power, we must first apply ourselves with some diligence. So I had a conversation recently, and you know who you are, but love you. Anyway, that there's this idea, confusion, that I'm the one solving my eating issue. And that right there made all the difference, because I always felt like I got to be I got to eat. I had this idea of good eating, bad eating, good eating, and that I had the power to do that. And so the question was, this person called, man, I ate in a way that I don't like, and my response was, You're acting as if you had the power to choose that. And then there was a confusion. It's a legitimate confusion, but I thought that the book says you need to be yes, that's right there. At first, we apply ourselves to some diligence. Yes, you need to get off the couch. Yes, you need to ask for help. Yes, we need to drudge through, because we've been living in a way. What is driving me to compulsively eat is a manner of which I've been living, because that living is containing the spirit of restlessness, irritability, and discontentment. And my experience, I did a lot of journaling, a lot of therapy, and I couldn't break through. And nothing worked with these principles, because I was held accountable. And I had a sponsor that was not afraid to say to me, nah, that's bullshit. She didn't say it like that. She was much kinder. But that's part of doing this thing, too, is having a backbone and saying to someone, I love you very much. Without you, without the newcomer, I'd be dead. But I take their life seriously, and I'm going to put my ass on the line and upset you if it has to happen. Not in an ugly way, as kind as possible, but oftentimes the truth feels like someone's punching you in the face. That's why it's important to deliver it kindly. I am guilty of not having a kind tone. I'm guilty of that. But that's why we need to soften it to deliver it, because sometimes the truth feels like that, even if it's presented in the most delicate way possible. But it's important, and it's a responsibility of a sponsor to say, you're not doing what they do in this book. And I know that you think that you are, but you're not. When you're ready, let's do this. But it sounds like you have a lot of ideas on how to do some things. And it was done to me, and it saved my life. Because if I danced around in the little groups of people coddling me, I would have died. I am not encouraging abuse, so don't take that and twist it like that. Instead, it's directing people. It's not what I do; it's what they did in the book. But yes, at first you need to do some diligence. But guess what? We talked about step 3 yesterday. 1, 2, and 3. Even that, this higher power is done for you. But it's kind of, at first it's like, wait. So I didn't even do this? Not really. Yeah, our willingness to do this program actually comes from our Creator. And we don't want to tell you that initially, especially if you're not into all that. But surprise, I'm telling you. But we got to do some diligence. And that is showing our Creator, I'm in. I'm making a decision. I'm in. I'm hearing things that are, they do not support my ego. And I don't like it. I don't always like somebody telling me the truth. I don't like it when my sponsor goes, you're getting very quiet. No, I'm not quiet. Yes, you are. Because that usually means I'm saying when I get very quiet, I'm telling her to piss off. I'm not, but she knows it. My body is going because I know she's telling me the truth. And repeats things over and over and over. Well, when we do an amend, we approach the person and we, I know. Just let me, Okay. And by repeating these acts, they become habitual, and the help rendered becomes natural to us. That's how this happens. But we're not quite there yet. So diligence is at this initial phase here. So now we're at this diligence part. And believe me, when we've had enough of ourselves, it feels pretty damn relieving to learn the truth and to surrender it all. And that's the ego too. And it's pretty amazing to have a person that you just lay that down in front of. And you can't help but just love them forever. So, last little thing about sponsorship, I remember when I first started working with her, I'd been in the rooms for 20 years. And here, there, everywhere, telling sponsors how they should sponsor me. And what's that phenomenon? I need someone that is this and this and this and this. And so then why do you need a sponsor? Do it yourself. Or, I want what you have, and you're going to be my best friend. I'm going to make you proud. I'm going to be an A++. No. So I went into it with that kind of experience, with that kind of expectation. I remember the day that my sponsor was like, yeah, I'm not impressed with that. She didn't say that, but pretty much I was trying to impress her with these other things I was doing. And she wasn't. And she was very kind. She went, okay. But I remember I got mad at my boss at work, and I was trying to explain to her how evil this woman was. And I went, she did this, and she did this, and she did this. She's evil. And she went, I just don't see how that makes someone evil. I went, but because she, and I couldn't get it. I was like, she lied to this person, and then she went over there, and she's evil. She's like, I don't think that I still don't understand how talking to this person, and she just kept, and I was getting so mad because she wouldn't go, oh, that boss is so bad. Oh, she just went, I don't see how that makes sense. She just kept saying that. And then finally I just stopped because I was fighting her. No, you don't think she's bad. And she just wouldn't comply to and I couldn't explain enough. And I was sitting there just going, she's like a Hitler. I just couldn't get it. And then finally I just stopped. And it changed our relationship forever. Because ultimately the lady didn't do what I wanted her to do. And you know what? She ended up getting fired because she was shady, and God took care of it. But that's these principles. So I hope that makes sense. All right, let's get in the book. So they tell us that rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Rarely. And it says our path, not my path, not your path, our path. So I'm going to repeat. It's not about what Dayna does. So I get the calls. I'm like, well, what do you eat? How do you meditate? And that's fine to share experience. I enjoy it sometimes. When people ask me about, outside stuff, I don't spend a lot of time on it. I'm happy to share it from time to time. But really, what I'm here to do is what they did. Because there's this beautiful thing that happens when we do what they did that God does through us. And I love seeing how God is manifested in people's lives. It's amazing that everybody is different. It's kind of cool. That's the beauty. It's like this beautiful pane glass with all these different beautiful colors that the light shines through. So, can you see how confusing it would be if my thing was everybody in recovery should wake up at 5 a.m. Everybody should make sure at 5 a.m. you need to do 20 minutes of workout, 20 minutes of meditation, 20 minutes of this, and the workout, you got to do this and this. The food, you got to pray. Do you see how confusing that would be if that were what we were supposed to do? No, we're doing we're showing you what they did, so that this power that we get tapped into can shine through your glass, your unique glass. and you can be useful in the world. Now we're unified in what they did. I can speak confidently. Sometimes people spin off, and that's okay. But I have a bunch of friends in this fellowship that we all agree. When we do this, we agree on what they did. And we all have very different views on things, very different outside issues things. And it's really beautiful. So those who do not recover cannot or will not completely give themselves to the simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable. There's will nots are very, very, wait. Oh, I'm sorry, I almost said that wrong. It's majority will not, very few cannots. Very few cannots. And usually if you can ask this, cannot, that is a constitutionally incapable. If you're asking yourselves this right now, can I or will I not? You're capable. I have taken to my sponsor. By the way, I do respect my sponsor, and we're different too. But when someone has been in, it's kind of like with Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob worked with 2.5 people every day in his lifetime, is the average. They're going to have some experience because something's working. If not, you would stop. And so I go to my sponsor. She has a tremendous amount of experience in it. And I have had people approach me from state hospitals. There are folks that I went, oh my gosh, this person clearly. I've definitely people in institutions that saw and would have conversations with the devil. And I just, hearing this stuff, and I in my mind, I went, okay, that's a constitutionally incapable person. And my sponsor was like, nope. Did this person do this and this? I went, yeah, they're capable. I'm like, are you sure? It's intense. But my point is, there have been several times I have approached her on certain personalities that I went, I think this person has other things. And she's like, no, if they can do this, they can work this program. I'm like, bam. So my point is, with speaking from experience and borrowing someone else's experience, it's very few and far between that someone cannot. So a lot of us like to go, I can't. No, you're a will not. No, stop it, you're a will not. So to clarify what they mean on that, especially there are people with wet brains, they cannot. And even I was in a meeting at the 2-4 Club here in Dallas just last couple of weeks ago, and they had a guy there. I didn't get to. They mentioned him because he never. I don't think he made it, but he had wet brain, and he was showing up. Couldn't speak, even with a wet brain. He still could. So it's very rare. Bless his heart. Anyway, and as far as making it, I think he ended up passing away. God rest his soul. But he was a will. He was able to do it at the last. Okay, so probably spent a little bit too much time on that one. All right, so we're at step 4. Our stories in a general way. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we're like now. If you decide you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. And some of these we balked. This is the responsibility of a sponsor. You're balking. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. If you need to do that, go do it. And I love you. And I'll be here. That is the best thing that good sponsorship did for me. Because I wanted to be coddled. I wanted people to listen to my sad stories. And, how my daddy didn't tell me that I was pretty. And so then I, got an eating disorder. I would have been doing that. I would have done this regardless if someone called me pretty or not, because I wouldn't have heard it. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was no until we let go, absolutely. Old ideas. Man, these principles totally turned my perception of the world around. Totally. I mean, I hated everything that was my childhood. I didn't like the state. I didn't like what my parents raised me in, which bless their hearts, they were really good people. They really were. But I don't like it because they were this spectrum of folks, and I just didn't like anything about them. Isn't that funny? They were people that remained married for years and did everything for their children to educate them and to teach them morals. And I was like, I don't like it. Poo, poo, poo. And today, I see that was pretty darn rare. And thank goodness for these principles, because when the last breath that my dad took, I was holding his hand, and I felt nothing but pure love in my heart. And I know he did too. So those are the things I would have missed out with these principles. So if you hear a dog in the back, she's a shh. She's a little bit of a little bit of drama. Okay, some of us try. Okay, so the fourth step, we're going to get down to causes and conditions, and it's real clear what you do. We're going to write down the things that we rethink, replay, redo in our mind. And if there's anyone on the line as a sponsor, as someone who is beginning this journey, the folks that say, I don't have any resentments. I have a little secret for you. You're going to have more than anybody else. Yeah. No, I don't resent anyone. Yeah, you do. Did you just shove a pound cake down your mouth in less than a minute? Yeah, you get some resentment. Yeah, don't play that game with me. See why sponsors? Nah. You see the responsibility of a sponsor? I know that you think that you don't. It's usually those folks that have more than anybody else. I didn't think so because I had done so many inventories that never took. Anybody out there? Anybody have a wall of fame of all the sponsors you went through because you kept thinking that somebody, I don't like the way her tone was. I don't like this. I don't like, she's too tall. She's too fat. Yeah. The wall of shame of all the sponsors I blew through. So I really didn't think by the time I got to this sponsor that and probably the reason why I hold on to her, like, she is the longest relationship I've been in. I'm just going to tell you who I am. The longest relationship on this, well, besides my parents and my family and sisters and brothers. But, yeah, I've been married, not really, but, spiritually to my sponsor for almost 13 years now. Anyway. Let's see. So it's important that we do this. And so I encourage people that if you think you don't resent anybody, you don't think you harmed anybody, let's look at those people that you rethink, replay, and redo in your mind. What's the story you replay at work? Because I know that you do. What's the story you replay with your spouse? Because I know that you do. What's the story you replay? Oh, nothing. It's all good. I'm fine. Yeah, that's a hard nut to crack right there. No, I love it. I love it. Okay. So what do you think about all the time? I just want everybody to know it. You think about everybody else's happiness now, don't you? Who do you avoid? Let's think about all the places that you travel or places you've lived. When you go, I hope I don't run into that person. What's that about? I used to have a neighbor, and I'd have to drive by her house to go to my house, and I'd want to duck. I'd be like, because I didn't want her to stop, and I want to see her, and then they want to talk to me, and you know, my sponsor goes, when you try to hide from somebody, I would literally be like, oh shit, I'm not going to turn down. Wait, she gets home at 5. I get home at 5. I will try to get home at 4:30. So I get home so she doesn't go, Dayna! I just didn't want her. And, yeah, what's the resentment? What's the resentment there? That ultimately, my resentment was that she, would suck up my time. And I wouldn't tell her the truth. But you don't have to be unkind. But there's a resentment there, isn't there? You suck up my time, neighbor. You have a husband and children to help you. I do not. Stop bugging me, man. Kind of sounds like a resentment. We're going to put that down. So we got to peel through these things. Oh, no. No. Because usually and then what's funny is when that cracks open, then it's like, it's like, there you go. There you go. You want everybody to be happy, and when they're not, you feel like you didn't do enough. Why do you want everybody to be happy? Why are you the happiness patrol? The happiness container? Who elected you to do that? Who elected you to be, in Twilight, the guy that's able to calm everybody? No, there's no problems here. By the way, vampires have special gifts. Like one's really strong, and the other one's really fast, and then one can calm a battle. Why do you feel like you're the one to do that? Who elected you? And what if someone's not calm? Okay, and you think and so I can understand their misconception. They think resentment is like, I'm mad at you for not doing that. No, they get mad at themselves. Okay, so help me understand why you lay yourself down on this to be that person. To what degree? And you know what? If I'm angering you for going through this, then put me down. Cool. All right. So we do an inventory, and we do the inventory to prove to ourselves on page 62. Selfishness and self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find that at some point in the past we've made decisions based on ourselves which later place us in position to be hurt. So I've certainly come across inventories that made me gasp. I've been in inventories where I went, whoa, that's some creepy shit, man. I mean, it was extreme. It doesn't happen often. And if I shared it with you, you'd be like, whoa, people do that? Yeah. And going to my sponsor and going, okay, so if you have this type of fetish, she's kind of like, oh, whoa, okay. And that's okay. We're here to help. But as you can see, I'm being discreet because that is a sacred space. And yeah, there have been, I can think of two times out of thousands of them. Yeah, I mean, it's been quite a bit. Yeah, several. Let's just say several. I don't know the number. I can think of two times where I kind of went, oof. And it was criminal stuff. But anyway, I think the word is covenant. It's a sacred space that what people share with us. And so I don't come across it a lot where people share. I think it has happened in other fellowships. I don't. I think that. I mean, it's wild. I don't. The problem is when we divulge, more about people's struggles. I mean, I was pretty close to my grand sponsor, and I still am. But it probably would have embarrassed me if my sponsor went to him and told him the things that I struggle with on the daily, or used to. I mean, there's definitely still little things here and there, like, why can't I have a sugar daddy and why do I have to work? Why can't I just, hang out with my dogs all day? Poor me, I gotta work. But anyway, I'm joking. But she always said to me, I don't tell them your name when I ask about things, and I appreciate that. And it's okay if you do. It's okay if you do. But there's an element of safety there. I'm certainly not going to be on the phone line and tell you about my friend, blah, blah, blah. That's not cool, man. I'm certainly not going to run off and gossip. That's not cool. Because how would you like that? And that's how this thing works. Is that we've all been there. If not worse. So, and also there's a respect that if I harm somebody, I'm not going to be able to continue to sponsor folks because I harmed somebody. And, if you harm somebody, you're going to do it again. And that's my life at stake. Because my 12th step, which we're going to learn about, depends upon carrying this message to that person that's suffering and to pass on what I've been taught. And if I don't have that opportunity, I will perish. So you understand how important you are to me, right? So, all right. So sometimes my point on this is sometimes inventories can be pretty rough. And I've not known what to say to someone because it wasn't an experience that I had and I could relate to. It was a criminal experience. So, and thank goodness, I feel grateful I didn't have to. And so I said, I don't know how to approach someone on that in an inventory. So I said that. I'm so sorry you experienced that. I really am. And I don't know what to say. But I know it wasn't your fault. But my big book says this paragraph right here. So I'd like for you to read it and for you to tell me how this is true. And she read it, and she went, by the way, I was warned. And I went, holy cow. Holy cow. That is God. I didn't know that she was warned about this horrific event, but she did. And then admitted, your reaction is exactly what I thrive upon. Wow. 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 These principles work. And I'm not even doing anything, everybody. I'm not even doing anything. I'm going, the book says this, the book says this. And she's discovering this stuff, and I'm sitting there going, holy cow, this actually works. Oh, my gosh. Believe me. I mean, I know that these principles, but there have been times when I go, man, I suck. I don't think these principles work in my life. And that's when I sit down and do an inventory and I go, but it's working in their life. I don't see it in mine. I sure do see it in others. Holy crap. I never thought about that. As someone who's experienced the worst victimhood goes, I thrive upon people's pity on me. Whoa. Whoa. Wow. I sit there and go, wow. Talk about freedom. A criminal, horrific event. And she said, I was warned. Wow. And I thrive upon people taking pity on me. So sounds like she decided to let go of that little story. And instead to use it to help others. Makes me want to cry, man. So we do an inventory, and then we're going to do a fifth step. And having made our personal inventory, what should we do about it? We're on page 72. We've been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and discover the obstacles in our path. What's blocking us? What's blocking us? Being that peacemaker, being the calm vampire, calming everybody. How's that working for you? I don't think it is, because you're shoving a pound cake after everybody leaves and everything. You're shoving a pound cake down your mouth in less than a minute. I don't think it's working, sis. And so here's the thing about fifth steps. We don't get to be our own. We don't get to grade our own papers. Because if Dayna grades her own papers, well, I did this because I was offended and I was hurt and it triggered my and said I was really mean. So I'm sorry, but you offended me. That's how Dayna does things. I don't get to grade my own paper. And then we're going to learn things about ourselves. And our excuses, and believe me, I understand there's a lot of truth in that, but it's fucking you up, okay? And you want a sponsor that's brave enough to say, dude, you shoved pound cake down your mouth in less than a minute. You almost choked on a fork. We're going to need to live in a different way. And I'm here to say, and I'm going to be a dick, and I'm going to say, I'm holding you to it because you asked me to help you. That's it, man. So we do our fifth step, and then I think we're done here. Okay, yeah, we're done. We do a fifth step. Cheers, and then we'll get into 6 and 7, all that kind of stuff at the end here. Yeah, do your fifth step. And you know, it's not that hard. Because here's the thing. The way you're living is much harder than doing a fifth step, a fourth and a fifth step. It's right there in the book. Read it. You'll love it. This is just a blast. You got to do it. Then you'll be speaking and you'll be teaching us and you'll be having all these wonderful insights that it's like, whoa. Okay. what we have is a body that loses control. That's where we're powerless over control. And then a mind that is powerless over choice. So the body is going to lose control, but when we eat in a compulsive manner, so we as recovered people are able to eat. Believe it or not, we can eat sanely. The problem is when we are eating compulsively. And here's what gets people in a spin. It's not the food. Now, when we're compulsively eating, we're probably not going to be, we're probably going to spin out into, the delicious of the delicious, the sinful of the sinful, because it's not like we're eating compulsively. It's not like we're eating normal anyway. Eventually it throws ourselves into that, but it is very possible to be eating, quote, abstinent food compulsively. So if you have not heard that, think about it. Think about it. I used to weigh and measure food for many years, and I would eat my weighed and measured food in seconds and lick the plate. I mean, it was so disgusting. Usually people didn't want to be around me when I was, and I didn't want people around me when I was eating because I knew that I was eating like a rabid beast. So it's a phenomenon that is being out of control. Now, that wouldn't happen if I didn't have an obsessive mind. And the mind is where the obsession lives. And when I have an obsession, I'm always going to compulsively eat. And when I always compulsively eat, even when I say I'm not going to. So that's the thing about the delusion around meal plans, is that if I don't have that mind component addressed, I am joking. I am fooling myself, and I'm fooling myself because I'm in the spin, and the day will come, just a matter of time, the day will come where I will fall off, and I won't be able to delusion myself again that I'm, quote, abstinent on a meal plan. I hope that makes sense. We can let's let this meeting for the purpose of being recorded, and usually if we were face to face, I'd open it up for questions. But again, we went into a lot of detail of step one on Monday. So then we can talk after the meeting if there's questions on that. But even prior to the mind that has an obsession, that is driven by thoughts, obviously. And thoughts are a result of my spirit. That makes sense, right? And they tell us that my spirit is restless and irritable and discontent. And I like to think of it as a pyramid. So if you have a pyramid, the bottom is the physical component, the very bottom. Then we go up a ring. It's a little shorter because we're talking about a pyramid. And that's where we have our mind. And then we go up, and that's our spirit. And at the very tip, what do you think is at the very, very tip top? Is God. Or whatever you want to, how you want to do something. It's very, we're cautious carrying the message to new folks because it can initially be a turnoff because many of us had bad experiences with that. Or we go, oh gosh, this is about God's going to solve my eating, right? No, it's really more. We're not a religious program, by the way. We are a spiritual program. We are a 12-step has an influence of religion, has an influence of medicine, and has an influence of psychology. But it is another entity. So it's influenced by those, but it is not those, because if those things worked, we wouldn't need to have this entity. Now, with this pyramid, and I have my arms in a little pyramid right here, if we get solid up here, and the point of this God talk, ultimately all you need to do to make a beginning in this program is to know that there is something bigger than me, and it's not me. Because me doing this thing is a problem. So all you need to know, it doesn't matter if it's the universe, it doesn't matter if yours is, JC, whoever your Buddha, whatever, that's okay. The thing that we need to have is that you're not it. And we get pretty convinced of that by the behavior around our eating. Because when Dayna's doing this thing, I'm abusing my body. I am. It's pretty amazing. When we talk, we'll get into the fourth step. A lot of, at least my experience, was being a victim. This person victimized by this, and this experience, that experience. Experiences I don't even recall. And I put so much focus on being a victim, not ever considering that I was a victim to my own abuse. And here I am, the adult, and I'm so focused on how people did me wrong, and I'm not taking responsibility that as an adult in the free world, in a life that I can choose to make decisions, that in my best moments while I was compulsively eating, I was abuser of my own body. And so that's the reality. So if I get right with this power at the top of the pyramid, it's just a light clears it all underneath. And so so then at the top where that's tapped in, then that immediately brings clarity to the spirit, which brings clarity to the mental, which brings clarity to the physical. The physical is at the bottom rung. And I talked about this on Monday, that oftentimes we're stuck in the bottom ring of that pyramid, the physical, of trying to solve ourselves right there on that bottom ring. And there's so many other layers. If you flipped it over, it'd be a darn it would be a iceberg. I mean, it's like, that's just the surface, folks. Eating is but a symptom. My weight is but a symptom. So I have to get down to causes and conditions. And so when I know that I am toast because I'm losing control and I fail at every attempt to try to solve my eating, when I know that, and I get some hope. I get some hope by hearing somebody that's been where I've been and they found a solution. When those two things happen, step 3 reveals itself. And step 3 is making a decision to turn my thoughts and my life over. I'm sorry, my thoughts and my actions. It's written as my will and my life. My will are my actions. My will are my thoughts. My life are my actions. And so, in other words, I'm going to turn over my thoughts and my actions. Because why? Because I am the abuser of me. Not only physically, but in my head as well. You sure don't want to be, nobody wants to be in, nobody wanted to be in my head because it was a dangerous place. It was awful. It was awful. And I know there's people on the line now where you know that too. I don't have to worry about other people. I'm my own abuser. So, we can do something, though. If you know that, we can do something. And here's what we do. We get down to causes and conditions. It tells us to do that in the 60s. And they tell us that we're prepared. We turn back the list, for it held the key to our future. This is the 4-step list. And we're prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. And we begin to see that the world and its people really dominated us. And in that state, the wrongdoing of others, fancied or real, it doesn't even have to be real, had the power to actually kill. That's pretty serious. See why we get serious here on the phone? Kill is no joke, and that is not an exaggeration. That's the reality. If you lose control when it comes to your eating and you make resolves and you can't stick to them, we get worse. We don't get better. So, referring to our list again, this is a 4-step list, putting out of our minds the wrongs others have done, we resolutely look for our own mistakes. Please note, it doesn't say my part. That is not correct. Sometimes I've said it by accident because you kind of hear, well, my part. No. That is never said in the book. It's my mistake. Their mistakes could be glaring, but it's mine. That's where we get free. There's some messed up people out there, really messed up people. We can spend all day long, a lifetime focusing on how bad other people are. You don't have any control over that. I don't have any control over that. All I have is my mistakes. So, now, I do want to say to the sponsors on page 66, going back, we're prepared to look at it from an entirely different angle. That's the thing about a 4th step. When I'm sponsoring somebody, it says right there, if I've worked with someone and we've qualified and they know that they're toast, they know that their mind, they can't stick to resolves, and they're ready and they've asked me to help them, that's step 3. And I've given them the inventory. For me, I give people sheets. It's just something Joe McHugh did. He wrote out what was in the big book. Here you go. Write those out. So if I'm sponsoring you and your inventory is more important to me than it is to you, we have already broken this direction because you're not prepared. And I'm so sorry that I'm interrupting your busy schedule. But the thing is you asked me to help you. So if you have other priorities, why don't you work those out until you're ready to do this? That, my friends, is responsible sponsorship. And I'm not going to apologize for doing that if it hurts your feelings. I'm not messing around here. Fancy to real has the power to kill. I'm not responsible if you decide that your life's not as important as I think it is. So if your boss, I understand the family, is more important that you get in your head straight. Try it out. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're not like me that has the kill in a highlighted right here. Maybe we're not the same. So I'm going to graciously say, figure that out, or take care of those, and I'll be here when you're ready. I'm not going to coddle you. I'm not going to be ugly about it, but I'm not going to coddle you. So if you don't have your shit together when we decided 5 p.m. on Monday, and if you tell me, oh, I've got a blah, 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 blah. I have a party at 7 o'clock. And you know what, folks? Everything that I share with you, I have done this because I had to be taught. I've been running around in the rooms for, since 94? I didn't recover till 11. Do the math. I have actually done that to a sponsor where I went, I have a date. He asked me at the last minute, can we do this really quick? Your life as a sponsor is more important to me than yours. Sounds like the boy who got the baseball tickets is more important. Now, there are times when you might have to reschedule, but you understand what I mean. So, if I want it more than you want it, it's not a good thing. Because I need to make room for that person who is ready to do this. Because there's many. Fair, right? So, we did a 5th step. And here's the thing that we're promised our 5th step. I'm trying to do a brief overview. And it's on page 73. So, by the way, 4th step, you're gonna write down your resentments, the things that you rethink, replay, redo, your fears, and people you've harmed as a result of using your sex power selfishly. So, when you did, I like to refer people, and my heart goes out to folks like this. My heart does. And you know what? I was one of them. I went to Everything Anonymous. I thought that the program was about whack-a-mole. Oh, I'm having problems with this. Oh, now I have problems with money. Oh, now I have problems with relationships. Oh, well, I kind of drank too much. Now I'm going to AA. Now I'm going to, Emotions Anonymous. Oh, now I'm going to Clutters. And I went to 1,000 different programs, 1,000 different ideas. I was filled with 12-step jargon and horse shit. I'm sorry to come down that low, hard. And I know some people get upset when I use curse words. But you know what? You can hang up. I'm just saying it's freedom of speech. You can do that. You have the freedom to hang up. You have the freedom to hate me. I have the freedom to say what comes through. I always pray before I do this. And apparently my higher power I don't know, likes Johnny Cash. So I like to refer folks that have been everywhere, anywhere, filled with 12-step jargon, and they don't have a clue. And I am speaking to this because I was one of them. Filled with therapy, filled with 1,000 different meetings, 1,000, and golly, not clear on anything. Don't even know what my real problem is. Don't even know what's going to kill me. I'm doing whack-a-mole. I'm doing 12-step as a hobby, which 12-step was never meant to be. That happened by the influence of rehabs and discussion meetings. So what we study here is the pioneers. We study the original 12-steppers, and we apply the traditions as the pioneers did. About the 70s and the 80s, the treatment centers came in. And you can imagine, I don't know at the 80s if insurance had come in at that point. But now you're starting to have institutions come in, forcing people to go to meetings as part of their program. There were people that didn't need to be there or want to be there, and actually court-ordered. So in the rehabs, what would happen is that in some of the hospital programs, and they would have other formats where there was a paid professional having topics like triggers, topics like your things that limit you, what happened in your bad day, your bad day, what are some bad things that happened today? More of a counseling. And so when people that were in those programs, when they left, they started going to their home groups, starting groups, borrowed format, paid professionals, not the guys in this book. So what am I telling you? We had the watering down of what's called discussion meetings. Discussion meetings, how my day went. I'm going to dump some things off my chest. I'm getting current. That is a format that was not what these original guides did. And so I always sympathize folks that have a lot of confusion about the program. I'm so sorry. And then the idea that I've been, the idea of, I've been in recovery. Before I came to, I've been recovered since 2011. Same sponsor. And when I approached her to help me, she called me a newcomer. I said, ho, 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 whoa, whoa, whoa. I've been doing this since 94, a little bit. But the truth is, she was right. Because I didn't have a clue what it meant to have a body that was out of control and a mind that was driving me to eat. I had no clue. No, not a clue. And I was filled with self-help, which, by the way, never worked. It would for a time, and I would sound real philosophical when I spoke, like I knew something, but it wouldn't last. It lasted for an hour on a meeting, not in the way I was living. So didn't have a clue. So I like to reference when folks have problems on page 76. They took inventory all right, which I had several times. but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egotism and fear. This girl, they only thought they had humbled themselves, but they had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary, until they told someone else all their life story. In the sense we find it necessary. What we do here may not be necessary for you, and that is totally okay. We have no monopoly on God. But if you call yourself a 12-step fellowship, this, my friends, is the recording of it. I'm not preaching it. They wrote it. So I am preaching it right now, but I'm kind of, sort of, whatever, turning message. But I'm not making it up. It's right there. So most people, more than most people, the compulsive eater leads a double life. He's very much the actor. To the outer world, he presents a stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it. And that is for you to decide. In your heart, and you know it. I knew I was a phony. I knew it. I knew I was a phony. I knew when I was weighing and measuring food and doing all those circus tricks of the tools religiously, and people would go, oh, my gosh, oh, look, you look so different. Oh, you look so good, da, da, da. I knew I was a fraud. I knew it, because I knew nobody would want to live the torturous life I was living, which was in a kitchen all the time, clinking and clanking. That's all I could frickin' do. Today, I have some freedom. Not some. I have freedom. Meaning that, and my body's healthier. Explain that to me. So, we do a fifth step, and then we get to 6. And I know I probably took too long. I did. That's okay. All right, so we've done our 5th step, and here's some promises. When we decide who's going to hear a story, that's your sponsor. They didn't have sponsors back then. We waste no time. We've written an inventory, and we're prepared for a long talk. It goes back to that other part that says we are ready to approach with whatever I just read, to have a different attitude, a different angle. It also says we're prepared for a long talk. So there's a lot that we can do as sponsors, or we just go back to the book. Yeah. So especially when those arguments come up, you go, like, it says here that we're prepared to look from a different angle, entirely different angle. Doesn't sound like you're there yet. And we're prepared for a long talk. Doesn't say that doesn't seem like you're really prepared for that. So why don't you ponder that and let me know when you've pondered that. We explain to our partner that what we're about to do and why we have to do it. He should realize that we're engaged upon a life and death errand. Man, there's a lot of life and death here. Most people approached in this way will be glad. They will be honored by our confidence. And we talked about that yesterday, just the sacred space as a sponsor. And a sponsor that has that's why you want someone with experience and knowledge, and someone who has been there and done that will naturally have that. If they don't, they're getting sick and probably will not be doing this much longer. The sacred space of being a witness to someone's 5th step. Because you want to know why? That is absolutely imperative to my existence. That's how that is. Imperative to my existence. We pocket our pride and we go to it, illuminating every twist in character, every dark cranny of the past. Once we've taken this step, withholding nothing, we are delighted. We can look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often, or the eating problem has disappeared, will often come strongly. We feel that we're on the broad highway walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. 76. That's your step 5. And by the way, after you do your 5th step with your sponsor, she's going to ask you, hopefully, is there anything bothering you? And I like to throw this little thing in there. It's not in the book. Okay, what's the one thing you don't want the world to know about, and what would happen if you did? And that's just to expose shame. That's really what the sex inventory is about. What are you ashamed of? And I'll share with you what I was ashamed of with my sponsor. Oh, my gosh, it still kind of embarrasses me. I told her, I got one little thing to tell you. I used to go to Alcoholics Anonymous to find a date. And I'd say as an alcoholic, fully knowing I'm not. So embarrassed. Yeah, that's a whole other issue. Hoping to find, a whole other issue. Ugh. Anyway, God solved it. I don't do that today. So don't worry. So step 6, if we can answer to our satisfaction. So you're going to spend an hour. So you've just done all this. You've opened the space to another person, and your Creator, and yourself, and you're going to need to sit with it. You need to cook a little bit. You can meditate, read the book, but you need that quiet time just to sit there, just to meditate. And you're going to go over the first 5 proposals, see if you missed anything. If you have missed anything, I had someone call me and go, I never thought I'd tell anybody about this. It's not things that you have forgotten. It's things that you intentionally withheld. I had people call me back and go, man, I never talked about this, but when I was blah, 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 I had an abortion, da-da-da, da-da-da. When I was this, I, did some inappropriate things, da-da-da. And, like, okay. No judgment. Okay. Because that's between you and God. Because you just lifted a big-ass burden. Yeah. And that's where, and circumstances might be different. If you just started a meeting and you're the only one and someone asking for help is of the opposite sex. But that's where it's helpful to be, where people tend to go with the same sex. And the purpose is, and I know that now we live in a world of many meanings on that, but the point is you need to be able to tell someone what's in your heart and your mind. I did, my sponsor did sponsor a man. She was female. And good on him. Because he said, man, I feel attracted to you. I had to tell her. So that's it. You got it, and he did it. to get it out of the way. She's like, okay. And thank goodness she had boundaries, but you got to have that level of honesty. And if you can't do it, then be with someone that you can. See how that goes? Okay. So step 6 is we emphasize willingness as being indispensable. We're now ready to have God removed. How are we doing on time? So 6, oh, Lordy, Dana. Step 6 is I usually have people just read it. And basically the spirit of it, when you read it, is step 6 is, we were entirely ready. I have not read them up to this point. Let me just read them really quick. We admitted we were powerless of a compulsive eating, that our lives would become unmanageable. Step 1 means our toast. 2, came to believe the power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. That means hope. 3, made the decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him, making a decision. 4, decision to go through the rest of the steps. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. That is the inventory we talked about. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. I'm going to continue to practice what I learned about myself, which is going to have to do with selfishness, self-centeredness. I've learned about how I sabotage myself and my mind plays tricks on me. And what this means is I'm going to continue to hand that up. I'm not cured. I'm going to continue to hand that up, hopefully until the day I die. And then 7, we humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. What that means is, and this one's pretty beautiful, and I'll end on this one because it's a beautiful prayer. We got a little bit more time. When ready, we say something like this: my Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. We've now completed step 7. Here's a little secret. And the 3rd step prayer, we didn't do it, but there's a 3rd step prayer in page 61, I believe. And you say that prayer to hold you until you get to 7, where the amen comes in. So at 3, you said I'm all in, and at 7, we're all in, but from a different perspective. When we do our step 7, I'm all in, God, the good and the bad, whatever the results. And you're going to be tested on that. I'm just letting you know. Because we're selfish people. We have ideas on how things are supposed to be. Don't know who to blame on that, where we come up with that. But when we subscribe to it, that would be me, myself, and I. When we agree to it, that life and success and is supposed to look like this. You will be tested on that. Get ready. Because here you go. Look, I'm all in. Are you sure? You just may not get that relationship that you wanted. You just may not, have the football star child that you wanted. You may not have the marriage you wanted. You may not have the body you wanted. You may not have the skin texture you wanted. You may not have the president that you wanted. You may not have the job you wanted. You may not have the acknowledgement that you wanted. You may not. You may not. But you said, I'm all in. But what happens, that price that we pay, one day, you're going to help that one person, and you're going to see this light, from what you've done or the message that you shared with them and the time you spent with them, you're going to see this light come in their eyes, and you're going to be like, it's worth every sacrifice. And I do it again and again and again. Oh, my gosh. Oh. Well, this one is close to it, that our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be. I almost thought this was it, but it's not. But 77 tells us that our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and people about us. That's really what you will discover. And we'll get into that tomorrow. We still have 8 and 9. But yes, there is a price that is paid. And it's usually there's something that you wanted. Maybe you wanted to be a punk star. But if you do this thing, you will be sitting across from someone, and that's why I really encourage people to do things face-to-face. The conveniences of the phone line are great. Maybe you want to, I do fist steps on phones all the time. I've seen miracles happen to people. You can hear it in their voice too. But there is something when you watch this light come alive in someone else's eyes. And what your heart feels like. And then to watch them do it. And then to watch what they did and that person do it. And then that person do it. It's beautiful. Step one, what we learn about ourselves in step one is that we have a body that is abnormal. And what that means with an abnormal body is, and by the way, all of this, if you wanted, you can even jump off and listen to the previous recordings. Everything I'm telling you, I can find in the big book. So, hey, don't take my word for it. Check it out in the book. So when there is and by the way, step one is a diagnosis. Usually people don't think of it that way, but it really is to see if you are this variety. And you can find it. It's very clear. There's a couple tests that you can do, but there's actually, 2 tests. But let's see here. Ultimately, going back to the body and the mind, if we were face-to-face, I would be writing it on the board. I'd write body, I'd write mind. The body is where we are powerless over control, and that is the first part of step one. We admitted we are powerless over compulsive eating. It's not food that's really my problem, and I know that you probably haven't heard that before. And when I'm sponsoring people, I just have them replace the word alcohol for compulsive eating. So I'm doing it from this perspective. But ultimately, it's the behavior which I'm eating, and I have an abnormal reaction, which leads to a phenomenon of craving. And so it's kind of like this. When I drink water, that's the only thing I could really do normally. But when I was compulsively eating, I did actually drink water compulsively as a way to avoid eating. It's amazing what you can do as a compulsive eater. I messed with gum, ice. So that's what I mean. Technically, that's not food. And this girl was able to compulsively binge on it. What kind of cuckoo stuff? Anyway, but I was creative, folks. But as a way to control my weight and my eating. So this phenomenon, so going back to the drinking water. So when I drink water today, I'm thirsty, I drink it, and I go, I'm good. I don't need to drink 1,000,000 gallons. There's a satiation point. And we are meant to do that with food. Prior to being recovered, I had altered my eating to such a degree that I had no natural response. And when I had a natural response, it freaked me out. I was so scared because I didn't know if I was going to go off the rails or not. or I didn't know if I was ever going to stop for the rest of the day. So that's abnormal. And in a compulsive manner, a phenomenon of craving it's like drinking salt water. I'm not satiated. I need more. I'm like, I need more. I need more. I didn't get it. I'm parched. And the more I'm drinking salt water, the more I need to drink salt water. See how that goes? And until eventually I'm at the point of I land in what is labeled as binges or what is labeled as, finally I bottom out. And that my stomach is ripped, torn. There's no more food left. That's what's stopping me. Nothing else is really going to stop me. And that only happens if I've got an obsession going on. And that's the mind component, the second part of step one. Admitted we are powerless over compulsive eating, and our lives have become unmanageable. Unmanageability is not all the messed up stuff going on in your life, technically, even though we do have messed up things going on in our life. And the messed up things don't cause us to eat because we think that. That's what traditional psychology tells us. It's that my eating is contributing to a life that makes things chaotic everywhere. So let me say that again. It's not all the unmanageability, the chaos in my life that is causing me to eat. It's that my eating is creating chaos in my life. So in the mind is an obsession. The obsession means that I am powerless over the ability to choose. I say I'm going to stick to this, and by golly, I can't do it. And then that is what is referred to as insanity. And is it not? Think of the person closest to you. Around my birthday, now my family's, they're good. Around my birthday, when I was compulsively eating, my family would go, okay, do we get a cake or do we not? Because either way, it was offensive. I'm like, oh, you don't give me a cake? And they're like, there were times I'm like, come on. And then other times I'm like, how dare you expose that sugar to me? It's just I couldn't win. So on, off. And, okay, so are we going to the healthy restaurant or are we going to the mall to graze all the stands? Nobody knew who they were going to face. So, and our lives have become unmanageable. And this is, you can find it in the doctor's opinion on, in the doctor's opinion, that's going to be on XXVIII. There's a little blib on the phenomenon of craving, and there's a little blib on the obsession and the spirit, which is restless, irritable, discontent. And I want to go through just a spree really quick. A spree goes like this. And when I draw this in front of people, I draw like a pie chart. There's a piece of the brain missing. And it starts at remorse and guilt. Remorse and guilt is, I cannot believe I did what I did. And usually what happens is if I oh gosh, I fell off, then I go, well, I might as well party. So I'm at remorse and guilt. Then I go to firm resolutions. On Monday, I'm getting back on the plan. On Monday, I'm going to get a day sponsor, a night sponsor, an in-between sponsor. I'm getting 1,000 sponsors. I'm doing 1,000 tools. I'm going to call. I'm doing it. It's that firm resolution. I'm calling back that mean sponsor. If I'm 5 minutes late, she's going to fire me. If I miss 0.5 ounces, I'm fired. I'm going to do it because I have to, because I'm sick. So I make firm resolutions, and then what's going to happen is that I might be able to follow this. I was able to do it for years. But then I couldn't follow it for 5 minutes. So firm resolution, I'm traveling along, and it's like holding my breath. And I'm doing the things I've been told to do. And, my goal is my weight. The goal is, not to eat certain foods. And then what happens is because I don't have a solution that is as powerful or better than the solution that I get from compulsively eating, because the reason I do this is I get ease and comfort. So if I don't have something at equal to or more powerful, I'm going to get restless, I'm going to get irritable, and I'm going to get discontent. Do you know what else that is? Restlessness is I'm uneasy. I used to pace the apartment. For the next meal. That's torture, folks. I would sit at the table waiting for the next meal. It's so sad. It just makes me think of people that are in that right now. It's so sad. Irritable. I'm easily agitated. I'm still kind of I'm kind of my attitude. I'm kind of not easily agitated around. I'm kind of I have a crotchety old lady attitude sometimes. But anyway, the kids today. No, this is a different type of irritability. That's irritability where someone touches your food and you're like, don't touch my food. I weighed and measured food one day, and I had family over, and I just, so embarrassing. I just weighed and measured food, and my cousin came by and grabbed a cucumber out of it. I'm like, oh! And I looked at her and I was ready to stab her with a fork. That's irritable, folks, because I was going to have to turn over my food because I put it all in the bowl. It was all weighed, and I was like, you. And she was, like, horrified. And the whole visit was so awkward after that. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, my goodness. Discontented means I'm never satisfied. Oh, my poor, pitiful life. All right, so the obsession is where I'm going to move along. So the obsession is ultimately that's what drives the body. That's the mental component. And what they found about themselves, this right here, if when you honestly want to, we're on page 44, if when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, that means that's our manageability part. You cannot manage the decision to stick to it. Or if when compulsively eating you have a little control over the amount you take, you're probably a compulsive eater. If that be the case, you may be suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. It's just what they learned about themselves. Do not misinterpret it. I didn't say that there's only one way. I am passing on to you what the pioneers learned about themselves. They're not egoic about their literature here. They're not going, this is it, that's the only one. That's not the attitude. They're saying, if you're like me, this is the only thing that worked for us. Because there is a spirit issue going on here. I'm living in a way. Now, yes, it's obviously from circumstances, because I'm pretty sure that we're born innocent and natural and in God's image. That's I do. I think we're all we're born precious, and out of our need to survive in packs, we pick up things, and as a survival thing. And so those ways of living keep our spirit in a restless and an irritable and discontented way. And oftentimes what we do, we have the going back to the pyramid, on the base of the pyramid is our physical. Above that, the line gets shorter because we're talking about pyramid. Over that, you got your mental. The next line up, you got your spirit. And at the tippy top is our Creator. And what's wild is there's people, man, boom, they're right up there with their Creator. And there's those of us that are reaching for it. We believe in it. We study it. I sat on a pillow for 8 hours. And the thing is I was trapped in that physical. And I was reaching outside the physical and worshiping the physical, trying to, reach up to the top of the pyramid, and I couldn't because there was all that mental. And then on top of that was the spirit. Now, if I go at the top there, it's amazing. It just, the top just clears it all out. But from the top down, there's movement. But I was going from the bottom trying to move up. And that's a Mayan temple on a hot day in heels. That's a big journey. And what's so sad is that we think that's the only way. And I have to. To get to that pyramid, top of the pyramid, I have to do it with my ankles bound and my wrists bound. But I'll get there. Got to try harder. I'll get there. All right. So when we admit that we're toast, in step 1, we get some hope. That's all we need in step 2 is some hope, a willingness to believe. And I will say really quickly, oh gosh, yeah, I did it again. Okay. So I like to use this example in step 2, what step 2 really is. So my sponsor, Robin's been my sponsor since 2011. Yes. Has been the most consistent marriage of my existence. We're not really married, but she's my sponsor. Step 2 is kind of like this. This is a analogy. It's like when Robin invites me, Robin, it was like she invited me to her apartment, and she said, Dayna, and we're going to have lunch. She goes, I've made this casserole for you. I went, oh, okay, great. And I look at it, and it's purple, and it's got these weird vegetable-looking things and weird something rather. It does not look like anything I have ever eaten before. And my first thought is, oh, my gosh, are those fingers? What? Ooh, what is that? It looks so foreign to me. And she goes, she's sitting there eating it. Try it. It's delicious. And I'm sitting there going, but I'm starving. I'm starving. Metaphorically, I haven't eaten in decades, metaphorically. So I go, okay, fill my plate, please. And so I don't fully believe that this thing is good because I've never seen anything like it. It looks different. It smells different. It kind of scares me. And she scares me too. So I don't fully believe this thing's going to be delicious, like she says. And she's sitting there going, num, 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 num. But I'm dying over here. So I'm borrowing her confidence in that first bite. I'm borrowing it. I don't fully buy it. So maybe, just maybe, it's going to be this weird-looking thing is going to be as delicious as she seems to be partaking in. So I'm borrowing her confidence because I don't have it yet. So I take a bite, and I go, wait a second. This is amazing. So then the next time that she invites me over, she goes, I got the casserole. Now I know it's as good as she said it was. And that, my friends, is came to believe. I had to borrow her confidence initially. So how would you know if you're doing something you've never done before, which is what essentially this whole damn program is about? And we have this idea that I should already know. And I have this idea that I'm going to guide it myself according to what Dayna's needs are. So essentially, the misunderstanding of some ideas outside of the directions in the book are essentially directions of Dayna sponsoring Dayna. Well, if that's the case, then then I don't need this program because I'm doing fine on my own. Step 2, came to believe. All I needed was a little bit of willingness, and I borrowed my sponsor's confidence on it to make that step forward. 3 is making a decision to go through this program, making a decision, turning over our will in our life. I'm going to talk about a little myth out there. There's a myth that I put down my will. I hear it all the time. Not on our meetings. I hear it. I took my will back. Oh, and I put it down. I said, oh, nope, I want that back. Thank you. That has nothing to do with step 3. What? But it doesn't. We made that up. If we had the ability to turn our will over, this would just be a 3-step program. I don't have the ability to do it. Turning our will and our life over means I'm turning over my thoughts, because my thoughts are jacked up, and my actions, because my actions are even worse. Turning over my thoughts and my actions, and that is going to carry me, because I haven't actually done any actions at this point. This is something happening within me. The actions I take is asking someone to help me and approaching someone who seems pretty damn confident about what's going on here. So when 1 and 2 happen within our spirit, 3 automatically comes up. That I need to take, now I'm taking some actions. I'm going to do an inventory. I'm going to get down to causes and conditions. They tell me they have a week to a month, so I need to go. I need to launch. They talk about there's an urgency, very clear in the book. It says we launched on a vigorous action at once. They don't say, just do as you want, sweetheart. I'll be here. It's like, no, man. Your mind's going to start lying to you. You're going to start seeing weird stuff in the mirror, and you're going to start saying to yourself, oh, I'm a bad person. I'm in the good, bad. Did I eat good today? Did I eat bad today? Did I eat good? Was it bad? Is it good? You're going to get in that, and then pretty soon you're going to start making resolves. And what are those resolves going to do? You can't stick to them. And by the way, if you did not know, when we where is that in the book? Where it goes into the chronic compulsive, was that what I just read? I forget what part. I know people text me when but there's a part in the book, I think is what I just read, that goes into the chronic. Yeah. Anyway, I do want to address the term chronic. I didn't know this for quite some time. There are people who compulsively eat because that's a loss of control. So we can be a compulsive eater, which means we lose control, but we can still stop. Example, myself, I would lose control, but I was able to follow a meal plan for 2 years. So I had not passed into the chronic yet. So that's the thing, is like, yeah, it makes sense that, we're all compulsive eaters, get it. But the question is, are you chronic? And chronic, according to the book, means that I have crossed that line where I am unable to even stick to a minor resolve. So I'm sitting there doing this thing of going, well, on Monday, and I'm doing that spin over and over, and then I can't even resolve anymore. It's just like I'm screwed. I can't even go on Monday. On Monday, I'm like, it's not going to work. So that is when I have moved into what is called the chronic compulsive eater. I can no longer manage that decision. And that's kind of, that was pretty darn enlightening to me. I forget in the book. Does anyone know what I'm referencing in the book where it talks about yeah, I can't remember. Anyway. I'll look it up after. I think that's where that part, well, it says chronic. Well, okay. I think what I'm talking about is page 44. That's what I am. Okay, now it's coming back to me. All right. Sorry about that, guys. So going back to page 44, if when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely. So there are people that still can the clinker here is or if when compulsively eating, you have little control over the amount you take, you're probably a compulsive eater. So the brilliance of our pioneers is they said or, not and. So or is that body component of phenomenon of craving. People can still be losing control, and they eat just like us, but they can still do part one. They can still stick to a resolve, which is different than a hard compulsive eater. And all of this, all that matters is that is all up in what someone else has to decide. But as far as the chronic acknowledgement, that's on page 27, where the great Carl Jung helped us, and he said, you have the mind of a chronic alcoholic. The mind of a chronic means that you can't even muster up any type of resolve. And so that is what we mean by saying that's the only thing we found. That's the only thing I found. Is to address this spirit component. And they do tell us that when we straighten out spiritually, the mental and the physical will work itself out. So, but that takes a couple of steps on that pyramid, and that does take an element of faith. Some people have that. Not this girl. I didn't trust myself at all. And so that's where focusing on that top of that pyramid there. And this book provides us actions to focus on that, because I did not believe I could get free from this, but I had no other option. I believed in my sponsor, and I'll be darned, I believed in people that I passed this message on to. That in that something, that Dayna had such low self-worth that I never really thought that this would work for me. But what's amazing about this program is they anticipate that. You think these drunks believed in themselves? No. And this is the ultimate of something doing for me what I cannot do for myself. You got to get me out of my mental, because it's the mental that is my enemy. So we get down to causes and conditions. So here we're taking actions. We do an inventory with our sponsor. That's our fifth step. The things we learn about ourselves, we're going to be ready to have those removed. That's on page 76. And we're going to ask that they be removed. So step 7 is basically I'm all in. I said I was all in at 3, and then when I get to 7, I am all in, whatever the results. And there may be a time where you tune out on the physical. And the only reason is it will come, because here's the deal. When we start to get tapped into this power, because if you're new to this solution, you have been called. You've been called to join us in that thing that was your number one hindrance. It's going to be your number one asset. I'm just telling you, the sooner you accept that, the better. The times that I have struggled and compared myself and the outcomes, I've been doing this 13 years. Well, 13. Wait, what? Is that right? How do you do the math? 11 in it? Yeah, 13. And believe me, there have been times, especially at my father's, at certain major life events like losing a parent, with the birth of, where I measure and go, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And the times that I doubted and compared, compared myself outside of this was when I was fighting the purpose of what God has for me here. And when I finally go, this is what I was meant to do. It's kind of like that, I don't know, the tomb of the lost soldier. All of a sudden, I'm like, I'm back, baby. And because it's a journey that probably is not going to be the TikTok star, probably not going to be the Academy Award winner, but that's what makes, that's a great part. And that's what the pioneers knew about themselves is, hey, I had the opportunity to be that person, and I grabbed on, I abused it. I was given life, and I was given a lot of great stuff. I had great parents. They were perfect by any means. I mean, really, I had a lot that a lot of people didn't, and I complained about it. So God gave me, and I went, nah, not good enough. I have a very healthy, I had nothing to complain about with my body, really. It just didn't look the way I wanted it to. So I was given, and when I say I took advantage of it, is I pointed to God and I said, you know what, you made me too tall. You know what, you made me too pale, too tall, and I'm way too big boned, okay? And, I have sponsored people who complained as well. And I'm just, okay, I will get back in the book, I promise. When we had our first workshop in Dallas, because, we did a lot virtually initially. And, people I sponsored, I'd never seen them. It was before Zoom really became big. The way that people describe themselves, you would I expected to see them that I would need to rent a crane because they were so morbidly obese that they couldn't walk. I mean, I was like, that's how they talked about themselves. And then when I'd see these people, I'm like, are you kidding me? Stop it. And honestly, this doesn't matter. Really, it doesn't. My point is, are you kidding me? My point is that mind, woo. Let's not determine our worth by how we look in a photo, please. But then again, if I have some medical stuff going on, let's not tune it out. But most of us are hypercritical. But there's the other side of us that it's like, let's get off the couch, okay? So, now we're going to make a list. I knew I was going to do this. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm sorry. It's so hard to, okay. So, I'm going to blow through 8 and 9. We're going to make a list. People on our inventory, all of them. So sponsors, don't let that horse shit come by. I never did anything wrong. I just didn't like him. It was me. I got hurt, not them. By this point, it says in the book we talked about yesterday that we are prepared when we do our inventory to have a different angle, to look at life from a different angle. The telltale sign, and it's happened, that this has not happened, that this person wants to stay on that bottom rung of the pyramid and not ready. Telltale sign is, I didn't do anything. The person I put on the list to make an amend to was me. You know what's funny? There you are again, aren't you? Didn't we just talk about how that's the problem? We make an amend to ourselves by working these principles. We make an amend to our Creator because we were given everything. We really were. Wasn't perfect. And we said it wasn't enough. And we get back to our Creator by being useful, and these principles show us exactly how to do that. And it's quite literal. So I'm going to make a list of these people, and it says, and going back to the telltale sign, we all have hesitancy. We all don't want to do it. We're egoic people. But it says here, remember, it was agreed in the beginning that we go to any length for victory over compulsive eating. And our real purpose is to fit ourselves of maximum service to God and the people about us. That's it. That's our main purpose. Some people are born on this planet and they get that. We want to get that. We might believe this, but we don't have access to it. And that's why we got to work through some levels there. So there's some requirements. So by the time we get to 9, we're going to feel differently if we are letting this happen. Because there is some diligence by us initially, but we will see when we move and do this diligence that it was ultimately God that gave us that to us. There's no way in hell this girl could have done. I was fully educated on nutrition, psychology, that every damn version of every, now there's so many more now, I'm out of the loop at this point, but was up on every program, every this, every version, I was highly educated. That was not free. That's why when I sponsor folks, I want them and encourage them to study. Yeah, you'll meet friends along the way when you do this. You'll start with people, but we're not going to chit-chat with them about our program. That goes to your sponsor. Instead, I went, and this is what I discovered when I started sponsoring people, because people would start going, well, with this, and they'd chit-chatting about that one and this lady and that, and then it would screw them up. It screwed me up, because then I'd start thinking, well, what are they doing over there? Things that were not my lane. So what we would do, Mike, you want to have coffee together? Let's sit and study the book. Let's practice carrying this message. Let's practice getting out of me and my day, and let's practice understanding what these pioneers did. It was to change these pathways that were set to destroy me, which is ultimately I would gossip about this and that, and then start doubting, and then guess what Dayna would do? She'd fly off. Okay, so there's 2 requirements. We've got to have a sincere desire to right the wrong, and then we need to go with him in a helpful and forgiving spirit. We are here to go through our mistakes, not our part. Now, some of us have had some unfortunate experiences. I sponsor a lot of folks. Grew up in alcoholism, drug addiction. That wasn't a happy scene. And it might take time to be sincere. It may take time. But of all that, look at you. Generations of, dysfunction. God gave you the opportunity to heal your family line. And maybe that's why you were sent here. And so rather than thinking of being this person on this planet, let's think of infinity. Your mom and your dad gave you the opportunity to experience infinity and to see what it is to love your neighbor and see what it is to think of someone else and to help them and to see the light come on in their eyes and to feel the purest joy in your heart because someone else got free. Your parents gave you the opportunity to do that. So I don't, if you wonder, I don't use the word trigger. But if you want to know, being that Dayna's a human, what do nails on a chalkboard sound like to her? Not a sick person. I have a lot of compassion that most of us come here thinking about what we didn't get. And sometimes I dip into what I didn't get in life. I do, absolutely, at times. But I know it's my selfishness. And this program, thank goodness, it keeps me out of that. Like you want nails on the chalkboard? Tell me about how terrible your parents are. Golly. Whew. 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 Generalize them. Man, these people did the best they could. And their people and their people and their people. But that's my stuff. So, anyway, I hope you can understand why. So we're going to approach that person, and we're going to do what we're supposed to be doing. We're going to talk to our sponsor about it. And then, for whatever reason, we prayed before we got here. God wanted us to focus on the other steps for now. But we continue to live in these principles in 10 and 11 and 12. And step 10 is a literal. By the time we approach our first person and we make an amend, we have recovered and been given the power to help others. And those things I learned in 6 about myself, the things where the dark alley that my mind goes in as a way to sabotage me so that I need to seek ease and comfort, I'm going to catch them. There it is again. There's that story that wants to kill me. What's my story? My poor, pitiful life. My poor, pitiful life. And so 10 goes like this. It goes 1, when they continue watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentful, and fear. So 1, I'm going to catch them. Here I am. And usually if I'm in a bad, this is why we don't want folks initially sitting around gossiping about the program. Why don't you actually do it? At some point, your mama's sponsor is not responsible for comforting you. At some point, your sponsor's got to take their little boot and go, get out there. Go find that person that's in a more shit situation than you, because they're there. Yeah, but it's only been that. So go help them. But I don't know. You've got a book. You've got me. Come on. I'll be there. When they crop up, did I go through this? Okay, I got to close up. Okay, so you're going to ask God to remove it, discuss it with someone, your sponsor, make an amend if you harmed anyone, and then resolutely turn your attention to someone you can help all day long, folks. Now, like any kind of relationship, if you want your marriage to work, you probably better spend time with your spouse. So we need to spend time with our Creator. We need to spend time with the invisible here. I mean, technically, it's everywhere. But, yeah, I mean, technically, there's not, the almighty dude sitting next to you. Maybe for you. Not my reality. It'd be cool, but probably scare me. But we need to spend time with God on the daily. And you can understand why, to build that relationship. And then how you remain immune. I will tell you, 89, practical experience has shown that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking, compulsive eating, as intensive work with other compulsive eaters. My question to you is, how did you eat? You know how you ate. So we're going to have to approach others to the same degree. It's a necessity. Just accept it. People are, especially, comments have said, wow, you work a lot in this program. I'm like, did you see me eat? No, you did, because it was a secret to everybody. Yeah, that's how I used to eat. So there's no wow about it. So, doesn't say meetings. Nothing ensures immunity from compulsive eating as intensive work with other compulsive eaters. Not meetings. Work with other compulsive eaters. All right. One more thing. It works when other activities fail. Life will take on a new meaning. Whoops. To watch people recover and to see them help others. To watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you don't want to miss. I promise you.